Hello and welcome to the Family Business. I'm Joe Castiglione Jr. alongside George Stoia.
Thanks for having me. Filling in for the great Isaac Stoops today.
Yeah, Isaac's out there hitting the slopes. Not what you're thinking. He's out skiing in, I think, Beaver Creek. So we got George Stoia to join the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he is probably the second most special guest of today's episode.
I mean, talk about you guys landed a massive guest this week, so it was fun.
I had to put on the coach's jacket, by HomeField Apparel, for Coach Ben Arbuckle. How about
Big
that?
Time.
He is a great guy. But this jacket, you can get this on HomeFieldApparel.com. HomeField Apparel is the official OU apparel sponsor of SoonerScoop.com. Use code SCOOP. You're going to get 15% off your first order. Like I said, this Coach jacket, really good. I always like it with a hoodie underneath. Today it's a little hot in here, But there's a ton of items, isn't there, George?
Yeah, they have the new knit sweater right there on the left. You've also got, I really like the pullover down below. I think that just looks sick. You got the hats. I know that, I bought some stuff on here for Christmas for my family. My girlfriend has the jacket that you have on right there that you can see. It's pretty sick, man. They've got a lot of really good stuff. Obviously, the vintage stuff is something that I think a lot of people like to have.
It's a lot of stuff that you can't get anywhere else. And so
Right.
That's why we love HomeField Apparel, because just they have those different logos, different styles. It's really good quality stuff. So if you head over to HomeFieldApparel.com, use code SCOOP, you're going to get 15% off your first order. Ben Arbuckle in studio. Gosh, he is such a cool guy. I mean, he's our age, and you kind of have to remember that.
Just kind of shooting the crap with him, really. It's like, talking to him even, before and after the show, just you can see why Oklahoma liked this guy, right? Like, I think that you'll see in the interview just his bright mind offensively, and then you can see, too, just his personality, how he connects with players. Being only 29 years old, that certainly helps, but I think just his personality, Joe, that's, to me, what I walked away. Like, I loved hearing about the scheme and the philosophy and how he wants to use certain players. He talked about some of the OU players that have stood out to him. Mainly Michael Hawkins was somebody he really likes, Deion Burks as well. But just his personality and the way that he connects with people, even us. Like, I felt like he was an easy guy to talk to.
He's a guy you'd want to grab a couple beers with.
100%.
Play 9 or 18
100%.
with. I mean, walked away impressed. Yeah, it's easy. You sit down with that guy in an interview, and you're like, I can see his vision. And then now in the day of transfer portal and everything, you have such a condensed time to make those connections with players. And so it's to his advantage.
You can see how he's going to be a really good recruiter, I would say. And finding guys that maybe not everybody's looking at, too, because he's had a history of that now, especially at the quarterback position. So I walked away thinking, man, this guy, it makes a lot of sense what attracted Oklahoma to him.
Exactly. And, some people say, maybe he hasn't coached at the biggest school yet, but he's had to find guys, diamonds in the rough per se, to fit his system and, be successful in that. So I think that's to his advantage. So we had Ben at Sooner Scoop HQ. It was a fantastic interview. We're going to take you to that interview right now. We now welcome in Oklahoma offensive coordinator, new man on town, Coach Ben Arbuckle. Thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it.
Oh, shoot. I appreciate y'all having me, man. Happy to be here. Happy to be in Norman and ready to get things rolling.
Yeah, I mean, you've been here just been on the job for about almost 2 weeks now. And then, it doesn't stop, though, with the transfer portal and everything. So, take us through your first 10, 14 days, so on the job, what's it been like? I know transfer portal's going. You're trying to figure out you guys. So what's it been like being in Norman?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. The transfer portal's kind of been a big priority, just, filling spots on the team that we need to fill, finding the right guys and everything. It's just kind of been a one after another, and it's been really awesome. It's been really productive for us. But as far as the other 2 weeks go, just getting to be around the players on this team, the coaches on this staff, and seeing how everybody in the building interacts with each other, man, it's been awesome. I've been house hunting a little bit and all that stuff. So just it's been kind of a really, really fun 2 weeks, a little bit of whirlwind here and there, but it's been a really great time.
Ben, I want to go back to the interview process because this was, something that Oklahoma, interviewed a lot of different candidates and it was a long process. Take us through kind of what that was like for you, talking to Brent, Joe Castiglione, all the people that I'm sure you had to talk to. Take us through kind of what that process was like.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those deals where we were still in season and everything. Yeah. And the awesome thing about Coach Venables was he was very respectful to everything that I wanted to continue to accomplish at Washington State. He was very understanding of that, and it was still in the midst of they were in their season too, and but a bunch of phone calls, lots of talking back and forth, a lot of communicating with, a lot mainly with Coach Venables, but, some other people here and there. But it was really good, really productive. And the best part about the whole deal is just whenever I talked to Coach Venables, it took me like 5 minutes in the first phone call to be like, this guy loves Oklahoma. He outlined his vision, almost immediately. And a lot of the things that he was talking about and relaying to me aligned with who I am as a person, my morals and what I wanted to accomplish as well. And so I just, throughout the whole process, I thought it was just a perfect fit and excited that it all worked out.
You're a Texas kid, but, you have some Oklahoma connections. One being your wife. We've heard the story about the first date, Oklahoma, Notre Dame. We're all very, we remember that game, for better or for worse. But and she was maybe your biggest portal signee of all time. So
no doubt.
What's it? Was she all on board, when you got that call and you're like, going to be? She was probably pushing you at that point.
Yeah, no, she was on board from the moment that she heard it was potentially a possibility. We're talking the earliest stages, but my wife grew up a big Oklahoma fan. Her dad is from the Oklahoma Panhandle. His family all lives in Oklahoma. I still to this day don't think I've met a bigger Sooner fan than him. And so they were all on board. And, our first date was Oklahoma Notre Dame. I believe it was 2012. Was it Manti Te'o rolled into town? Yeah. And that was a lot of fun. That was a really cool game. We sat in the end zone that's now renovated. It didn't look like that whenever we sat there. But great memories. And, yeah, absolutely a lot of Oklahoma ties.
How much did those tickets cost you back then?
I think they were $200 to $250 each. Yeah. So
wow,
yeah, I was trying to make an impression on date one. So
yeah, you clearly did.
I spent all my lifeguarding money from the summer.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that too, because I know that your coaching journey, she really supported you a lot because you did it for free for a while. Could you tell us just a little bit about how you even got into football coaching? Because I know you weren't even into it for the first few months out of college.
Yeah, so graduated college. I went to West Texas A&M, which is about 3.5 hours down the road. I got my degrees. I got one in finance. I got another one in economics. So I thought I was gonna work in a bank or work for an oil and gas company, which I did for 3 months, and it didn't take me long, 3 months to be exact, of working that job to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like this is brutal. It's for some people. It wasn't for me. And I was fortunate that I had a buddy who at the time was a graduate assistant at Arkansas State. And then he said, hey, I know he knew I loved football and knew that coaching was something I thought I might want to possibly do. And he's like, well, there's an unpaid job at Houston Baptist University. And I was like, I don't even know what Houston Baptist is. I was like, I'm from Texas and I've never heard of it. But I looked it up, researched who the offensive coordinator was. Familiar name. His name was Zach Kitley. His cousin was actually one of my coaches in high school. And so a little bit of reaching out here and there, Coach Kitley called me and said, hey, man, if you want the job, it's yours. They were already like a week into fall camp. He's like, if you need 2 weeks to put your 2 weeks notice in and get out of your other job, that's all fine and dandy. I was like, coach, I'll walk to my boss's office real quick and quit, and I'll be there tomorrow. But yeah, I was at HBU for 2.5 years, didn't get paid a dime. It was, that's really the telling story of my wife is I quit a pretty good job that I had, didn't make any money. She was in occupational therapy school at the time, and she took a nanny job in Houston. So would pretty much take kids to school, pick them up in the afternoon, hang out with them, babysit them, make them sandwiches and stuff they needed to. And I would deliver lunches and dinners during free time. Coach Kitley give me an hour during lunch to go deliver a few lunches. And then at night I'd rip a few dinners and stuff, driving around, make enough money for rent, gas, groceries, and all that stuff. So we got by. We weren't saving any money, that's for sure. But she's a stud. We ended up whenever COVID hit, I went to Seminole High School for 6 months. Incredible time. And then Coach Kitley got the offensive coordinator job at Western Kentucky, and that's just kind of where it all started snowballing from there. We had a great year that first year at Western Kentucky. He ended up going to Texas Tech to be the offensive coordinator, and Coach Helton, I was 26 at the time, pulls me into his office, and he's like, he kind of talks like this. He's like, Ben, I'm going to make you the play caller. And I remember I laughed at him. I was like, Coach, man, that's a good one.
Where's the cameras? Kind of like a prank or something?
Yeah. I was like, all right, Coach, I'm going to Lubbock with Kit. I appreciate it. And he's like, no, Ben, I'm going to make you the play caller. You're going to be the offensive coordinator. And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's roll. Let's let it rip. And that next season, had a lot of good players and good coaches, and we had a great year. And then Coach Dickert hired me at Washington State. Same deal. Got to work with some awesome people and some awesome kids. And after 2 years there, Coach Venables hit my line, and now here we are in the great state of Oklahoma.
Do you ever look back and be like, damn, I can't believe – I mean, that was 4 years ago, that kind of all went down. 5 years ago, do you ever look like, damn, I can't believe how quick this has happened?
Yeah, I really don't think about it too much. I mean, whenever someone really says it to me and reminds me, I'm like, yeah. I mean, whenever you think about it, it's kind of crazy. But I always just kind of live in the moment of the job that I have, and I've just had a lot of really good men that have, given me opportunities, taking a chance on me and everything. And so I don't necessarily think of it that way. I just think of it as the next opportunity and proving that person right. Whoever gives me the opportunity, I feel like my responsibility is to prove them right. And so that's where we're at now.
The LinkedIn profile for you would be really good. It'd be it'd be unpaid intern, student coach, and then Uber Eats driver, and then a couple years later you out of school like Oklahoma.
Yeah, got some wild things on that resume. That's
skills and everything. I mean, when it comes to offensive coordinators, it seems like, in terms of media, it's the first, it's, who he is as offensive coordinator, but then it's his coaching tree.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, Zach Kitley, but who else would you kind of consider in your coaching tree of, offensive styles and, your mentors?
Yeah. The current head coach at Western Kentucky, Tyson Helton. Coach Helton's one of the best coaches I've ever been around. Highly intelligent, knows the game front, back, any which way, and he had a way different approach to offense than myself and Coach Kitley did. And so whenever we got there, it was this beautiful morph of two different styles, and ultimately it's really kind of what you see on the field today. He's started his career at the University of Hawaii with June Jones, really running some run and shoot West Coast principles, and then worked some other places and really got into the pro style world of things. And Coach Kitley's background was true blue air raid, and whenever we all got together, I mean, it was just we're going to take the best of all worlds and put them into one. And so Tyson, he's really one of my biggest mentors. I mean, I've actually talked to him 3 times today, if I'm being quite honest with y'all, just this morning. And so he's definitely up there. Another one is a man named Brian Ellis. He's currently the tight ends coach at Alabama, and Ellis was, our co-OC receivers coach at Western Kentucky, and then went on to be the offensive coordinator at Georgia Southern after that. And he's someone that I talk to quite a bit. He's always just given me great sound advice, and I can always bounce something off of him and everything. So really those 3 guys right there are just big influences in my life and how I approach the game of football.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that offensive philosophy, and you kind of touched on it where it's a mix of different things, because I think everybody wants to put you just in the air raid box because of your connection to Kitley. But could you explain just kind of your philosophy and how you think that'll transition to a league like the SEC where you see some different offenses?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the offense that I run is that it's an attacking style offense. I want to take the fight to the defense. And, another thing that I always say that I've lived by is that the personnel is going to drive the scheme for me, right? Ultimately, how can I get our best 11 players on the field at the same time and put them in positions to be successful? And that can come in many different facets. There's been times that I was throw heavy because I had a quarterback who was confident standing in the pocket and would let it rip, and my receivers and tight ends were really, really dang good players, right? But then, if you look at this year at Washington State, I could be wrong, but I think we were 52% run, 48% pass, right? I mean, if I'm an air raid guy, I've definitely lost the card. It's not there anymore. And so I've never been one that I'm going to bang my head against the wall trying to do something that I just want to do. I'm always going to try and find ways to put our guys in position to be successful. And for me, that starts with establishing the line of scrimmage. Everything that I do, how are we going to establish this line of scrimmage? How are we going to run the football? How are we going to protect in the pass game. And that's where it always starts, and then you work out. And so that's really my offensive philosophy right there is I want to take the fight to the defense. Let's establish the line of scrimmage, and let's be a personnel-driven offense that is going to give these guys operational space to be successful.
Okay.
Great answer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great answer.
I'm sitting here. I mean, one position's kind of been talked about. It's, of course, you're working on rebuilding the receiver room and then the tight end room as well. Just kind of reshaping that. What's the difference in the tight end room? I mean, I know just like looking at film, you kind of use more of an H-back. That's kind of the system that I played in under Lincoln, H-back, and then kind of split out Y. Talk a little bit about, you're going to build it off the personnel you said, but talk a little bit about how you use the tight ends, running backs a little bit differently.
Yeah, the running backs really, I mean, they're going to get used like any running back ever does. We're going to hand the ball off them. They got to be sound in pass protection. They got to be ready to catch the ball out of the backfield, right? And from everything that I've seen just throughout the few bowl practices that I've been a part of and been able to be at, we have very talented guys in those rooms who are really good with the ball in their hands. They're able to boom, split out wide, go run a route for you and make some stuff happen out there. So I'm really excited to see that room and what all we can do with those guys. And then the tight end room, like Coach Finley's an unbelievable coach, and there's some really dang good bodies in there. We're, like looking to add another piece or two in there too. But like with the tight ends, those guys have to know what everybody does, right? They have to know what every single receiver does, okay? They're an extension of the offensive line as far as protections and run game and everything like that. So you'll see their hand in the dirt. You'll see us in 12 personnel. I mean, there's times at WKU I was in 13 personnel, even had a few things schemed up for 14 personnel, right? Get all my big bodies in there and let's roll.
That's SEC, right?
Yeah, and so But those guys, they have to be threats in the pass game, right? Especially whenever we cross that 40-yard line and we're in that shot zone to red zone area. I think they're the easiest people in ball to hide. They always find ways to just get open, okay? And they're that big target that quarterbacks like to throw to, right? And in the run game, they're part of establishing that line of scrimmage. They have to be willing to physically impose their dominance on somebody. They have to, right? They have to put their face in the fan, and they can't hesitate when they do it. And so, but they'll be, like you said, they'll be H-back, they'll be in line. Shoot, I'll put them in the backfield sometimes just to change the picture up and get an advantage on the defense. But those guys got to be ready to roll, and there's a lot that they have to know. And I mean, with talking with Coach Finley and talking with those guys, they're not going to back down from any sort of challenge. So I'm excited.
You've had a lot of success with quarterbacks, too, in your career, going back to even Bailey Zappi and then Austin Reed. And I spoke to Austin Reed for a story I wrote about you when you first got hired, and he was telling me about your system is so quarterback-friendly that you've got easy decisions to make. How does your system, I guess, work well with quarterbacks? And then how much of a help is it now that you have a guy like John Mateer who's with you guys that he already knows what you're asking him to do? Yeah,
well, this is something that Coach Helton always taught me. He said, you need to build everything around the quarterback. At the end of the day, that's who's going to win the ball game. That's who's going to win you ball games. That's who's going to win you championships. And so that's something that's always kind of stuck with me is, okay, how can I make this as not easy is the word, but how can I build this around the quarterback? And the first thing that I do is I just train them in a certain way where they're just an extension of me and all the other coaches out there on the field. Okay, they have full autonomy out there on the field because at the end of the day, they're the one playing the game, all right? Hey, if you don't like something, okay, get us to something you do like. And so, but as far as the pass game goes, I mean, always have an answer for something, right? Anything that the defense could show us, there's going to be an answer for it. And if for some reason that there isn't, boom, get us to something where we have a great answer. And so that just comes with a lot of film study, preparation, and repetition. I think repetition's the master of all learning. And so just constantly doing that over and over and over again and seeing those looks over and over and over again, I think is ultimately what helps them be confident when they get out there, because they got to be confident. If they're not confident, ain't nobody going to be confident. And so just always just breathing that life into them is something that I do on a daily basis.
With the signing of John Mateer this week, and Sooner fans have probably found every sort of film that is on him, probably since there's probably some 8th grade film of John Mateer out there that people have found. But talk to him, they watch the film, they're broken down, but like talk to like John as a leader and, like the ability that you have now that to bring in somebody that has knowledge of your offense like day one. So, you're installing for the rest of the offense, of course, but like you have a quarterback that has a good understanding. So talk to that, the advantages that provides.
Yeah, it's just starting with them as a leader. I mean, John is the ultimate do everything right all the time guy, right? He's going to be in the building. He's going to be early for weights. He's going to be early for his nutrition. He'll never, ever miss anything, which I know is expected, but like he does it to the nth degree. Has great relationships with everyone on the team. He's an easy person to talk to, easy guy to get along with. And so he has no problem connecting with his teammates, which I think is a huge thing for a quarterback. And as far as the familiarity he already has with the system and everything, at the end of the day, and this is something that, I told him going in, hey man, you're another ball coach. Like you get to assist us in implementing everything. And I was like, and no better person for the other players on the team to hear it from than you. I was like, it means more whenever it comes from a player. Player-led teams, I think, are unstoppable forces, and he gets to be the first enforcement of that. And so, I mean, just his familiarity with everything is invaluable. Who he is as a kid is invaluable, and he's unbelievable. He's awesome.
He wasn't highly recruited come out of Little Elm, but where have you seen the biggest growth from him this year, kind of taking the reins from Cam Ward? I mean, he had a monster year for you guys at Washington State.
Yeah, I think the best thing that ever happened for John Mateer was that he sat behind Cam Ward for 2 years, who is an unbelievable player, unbelievable talent, unbelievable person, right? And played football at a high level. So John was able to sit behind that for 2 years and kind of, I like what he does here. I like what he does there. I like what he does there. Hey, that's not for me. All right, I'm going to find a way to do something that is for me, right? So I think those 2 years were just, I mean, you can't, I keep saying invaluable, but they are. Like, it was invaluable in his development process. And then whenever he got there, John was in a little bit of a quarterback battle. And so just having to constantly bring it every day and play at a certain level every day to show that he was the guy, I mean, it put an intent on how we expect him to be every day, and he lived up to that every day. And so that was the biggest development. He was a young quarterback. This was his first year really starting. So some of the young mistakes that you kind of saw at the beginning of the season really started just going away. And he's big on not making the same mistake twice. Now, it's football. Inevitably, something like that will happen. But he's really big on, well, I missed this protection check against these guys. The next team is definitely going to try and hit us with that. And he would see it, and he wouldn't forget it, and he would always get it right the next time. And so I think just his white belt mentality, if you would, he's always learning. And so he's always learning, always developing, and he takes that to heart. And I think that's probably the biggest asset that he has, is that he's always trying to get better. And I think that helps him every single day.
There's something about having that leader around your team, especially in the era of college football days and now in the transfer portal and roster turnover and, guys in and out the door. And so you got to make those relationships, a lot faster. It's a different timetable. You used to have 2 or 3 years. You have 6 or 7 months to get it really right. But you've been around the team, for a few days now, and then, been around bowl practice and watching a lot of film, and you're also trying to find pieces to fit in. Talk about the roster that you've seen so far. You've been around bowl practice. Are there any guys standing out? What's it been like, seeing your pieces that you're going to have for next year, or at least, some of them that are here?
I mean, first thing I want to say is that our defense looks incredible, and I think those coaches do an amazing job over there. Kudos to them.
It's going to be fun going up against them in practice.
Right? I'm looking forward to that. But, just very impressed with them over there. And then whenever you look at the other side of the ball, I mean, a lot of really good-looking bodies and a lot of kids that, are hungry to get better. And I love that. I love seeing it out there at practice. I love them flying around. I just love being at football practice. And it's kind of weird for me because I don't necessarily know it. Like, I look down at the play sheet at practice. I'm like, I don't know what I don't know what some of the plays are, and I'm like, all right, I'm just out here watching ball at this point. And someone who, I mean, I've been out to 5 bowl practices now, and talking about like Michael Hawkins, that kid in just 5 practices, I've seen him get so much better, right? And I think it's just from constantly, I mean, he's the guy out there and getting all these reps, and he is so talented, and he's going to be such a dang good player. So he's someone that I'm really, really excited to get to work with and put my hands around and get to mold and everything. And because he's uber talented, talking about, Deion Burks, he's been running out there at practice. I mean, that kid's twitched up, fluid mover, really good personality out there. He cracks some jokes and stuff like that, which I love. And then the running back room, I mean, those guys, Coach Murray just has those guys rolling, and they all look awesome. I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun. And then Coach Bedenbaugh, I mean, he's the best offensive line coach in the country, right? And those guys are just so in sync out there and communicating well, and everything about it has just been great and been fun to be around. And I just love getting to sit back and really almost evaluate, just boom, this is what we got, this is who we're bringing in, and the wheels are just turning in my head of who we're going to be next year. And that's just something that I really enjoy.
You mentioned earlier about how important the offensive line is for this offensive system and what you want to do. And obviously the trenches in the SEC is huge.
Yep.
What have you seen from some of the young offensive linemen? A lot of those guys got some playing time this year, bringing in some really talented freshmen as well, some transfer portal guys. What have you seen from that unit and just working with Bill Bedenbaugh, who's kind of, like you said, the best offensive line coach in the country, but also very well versed in air raid and different offensive systems? Yeah,
I think from those guys, every day, just the intent to go out there and want to get the work in, right? They talk a lot at practice. They get guys going at practice and stuff, and that's been one of the biggest things that I've seen. That those guys are making people rally behind them. And like you said, I mean, some young guys who got a lot of valuable experience this year, right? I mean, it may not have been what everybody wanted it to be at the time, but for the future, I might like those guys playing is going to be huge for the future of Oklahoma football, and then just being developed by Coach B every single day. I mean, he's constantly pushing them to get better. Every day I've got to sit in one of his meetings, and I mean, it was just fascinating just being up there and how much respect that they have for him and listening to him. So I'm excited about that unit of the offense.
No, a lot of guys got it. And then you spoke a little bit, working with Coach B and then Coach Finley, Coach Murray, and then Coach Emmett Jones. Talk about a little bit, because you bring in a guy with you from Washington.
Yep.
You're going to have to help me pronounce his name.
Kuzieski.
Okay. I got it first try.
I'm going to try like 3 times. I'm not going to say it on air, though. But you brought him with him. But then other than that, you're coming in, you're trying to fit in with the system, have them fit in. So talk a little bit about molding, not only the players, going further into the future, but, bringing in and working with that staff.
Yeah. The thing I was most excited about this staff is that these guys have done a lot of winning in their career. A lot of winning. These guys know how to win. These guys are really good coaches. They're technical coaches. And I'm just thrilled to get to work with them because I know they're knowledgeable. I know their intent. I know what they want Oklahoma football to look like, and it aligns with what I want it to look like. And so these guys they're driven. They work hard. I've gotten to see them in a bunch of different aspects, whether it's them out there on the field coaching, in their position meeting rooms, how they interact with recruits that we're trying to get to come here. Like these guys are awesome, and I can't wait to just be able to be a vessel for them to where we want the offense to go. And so I'm fired up to be with all of them. They're all unbelievable coaches, but the biggest thing about them is they're all winners. They're all winners, and everybody wants to win. I want to win. They want to win. Coach V wants to win. OU wants to win. And that's what these guys done because they have won a lot throughout their career.
Last one from me, Ben. Just what's next, I guess, in terms of installing your offense and going through, I'm sure, the spring and winter workouts and all of that. Just what's next for you? And I know you've also been, I think, working with some of the quarterbacks, leading up for the bowl game too.
Yeah, I think what's next for us is, go down to the bowl game, beat Navy. Yeah. All right, that's definitely the of utmost importance. But whenever everybody gets back, it's just meeting with the coaches, fighting to get on the same page. Really putting in stone exactly what I want it to look like, what we want it to look like. Boom, and then once we all do that, we get on the same page. I mean, it's as quick as possible getting it to the kids. That way, like I said earlier, we can hit it over and over and over again as we get into spring ball and really start forming that identity in spring ball, and then find out exactly what we want to be throughout the summer, and then fall camp, hit the ground running. Let's roll.
2 weeks are paramount. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show, especially during a busy time. Juggling a lot of things right now. And welcome to Norman. If you need any food recommendations, let us know. I'm sure you've eaten more meals at the ranch right now.
Yeah, I've been there a time or two.
Benvenuti's.
Or 10. Benvenuti's been there about 5 times. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm sure you're well versed with that. But if you need like a daily driver food, let us know.
I appreciate that.
Or make your way over to Westwood National Golf Course.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we heard you're a
Austin.
big golfer, right?
I do enjoy hitting
Nice.
the white ball around.
We'll have to get you with Eddie. He's the king of golf around here.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
The Eddie Radosevich tournament. Is
him
that
and
Christian or Scoop?
Hibble. Get him with Coach Hibble.
Coach Hibble's hit me up a few times. If I ever get some free time, we may sneak on out there and get a quick 9 in or something. But
Yeah.
Their new facility that you're going to have access to is really, really cool.
pretty
too.
sweet.
Yeah, it's not completely open yet, but they blew everything out. It's going to have like 4 or 5 bays and everything.
I love that.
Yeah, no,
That's awesome.
It's a good golf team. So it's a good golf team. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all having me. Boomer.
Boomer. For everybody watching, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us help you. And we'll catch you next week of another edition of The Family Business. Remember to keep it in the family.